Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Geometry Survivor, neon abstract roguelite action. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Brainseal Entertainment, Geometry Survivor released in February of 2024 for the PC, the Xbox, the PlayStation 4 and 5, and the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today. This is another in the Survivor Horde roguelite genre, of which there are numerous of these days. But what attracted me to this particular title was the Geometry Wars aesthetic that it has. That abstract neon look that I was talking about. As far as if this one is one that's worth your time, if you're not a fan of the aesthetic, most likely not. There are other better titles in the genre, of which I could recommend several. As examples, Vampire Survivors, 20 Minutes Till Dawn, and Brotato are all available at the same price point this title is, but I feel those are overall better, stronger games. With that said, let's dive into the gameplay and see if this is something that you would be interested in. So here we find ourselves at the main menu. Before we start a game and survive, we're going to go to shop real quick just to see what we'd be spending our earned credits on. So as you play through the game, you earn credits and you spend those in the shop to purchase permanent upgrades, such as additional health for the start of your run, better speed, faster level ups, and more credits per run. Under Survive, we have our ship selection. So there are 8 different ships. Initially you start with just Hexagon, but we can use those same credits to purchase additional ships. And those ships do modify the game to some degree, some more than others. Like you have Challenger here, where it just you start off with only 1 health, but other than that, it's basically the same kind of game you'd get with Hexagon. Starting the game, we're going to be dropped right into the action. As far as our controls are concerned, they're really basic and simple. If you've played other Horde Survivor games, you know what to expect. There's like you have the ability to control your movement, but as far as the shot is concerned, it's an auto shot. As we defeat enemies, those enemies will drop these little blue spheres that are experienced. If we pick those up, then we'll ultimately get a level up. And here we can select a different upgrade for our ship, and these will be random each time you level up. There is the ability to reroll. You can purchase additional rerolls, but by default you start with just 1. So out of our options here, I definitely have a favorite. The spiral projector just has a little spiral that you drop in place, but it doesn't necessarily protect you in the direction you're moving. The proximity blaster is the fastest firing, and it does a good job of clearing out enemies, so this is the one I'm going to choose. And there's also a sniper. Selecting that weapon, we're dropped back into the action, and one thing that is nice is you're momentarily invulnerable after you come out of the level up screen, so sometimes using that can definitely be to your advantage. So in addition to dropping those blue spheres that allow us to level up, the enemies also drop credits. So those are those gold C's that you also see on the ground. And there'll be a few other power-ups that occasionally will drop, but are generally pretty rare. So now we have another level up and another chance to upgrade. So we can pick up the orbiters, which are really neat. They're kind of just a few little spheres that orbit the ship, dealing damage to the enemies. And also the black hole is just fun, so let's take the black hole. It has a black hole that'll suck in the enemies and grind them to dust in what may or may not be there as the singularity. But that's going to be your gameplay loop the entire time. So as far as the HUD is concerned, in the middle of the screen you have your timer, and the runs in Geometry Survivor are 20-minute runs. So you have to survive for 20 minutes, and unfortunately in that period, although the game does get increasingly more difficult, there are no bosses or significant elites that you'll get to change things up. Another upgrade for this one, let's take this Pentadragon. Let's see. Pentatragon. Basically, it's an autonomous projectile that just flies around itself, taking out the enemies. On the right of the timer, we see our health, And initially you start with just 3 health, and it's very easy to take damage in this game, as your hitbox is actually quite large. It's basically the whole size of the hexagon. So you do need to be careful about the distance from the enemies. On the left we have our experience bar. That's what that little lightning bolt is. The closer we fill that up, you'll see when it hits maximum, we have this level up. So here's an interesting choice. We have the first option to level up a particular weapon we have. In this case, it's the auto aim. This is our auto fire that you have at the start of the run. So this one will allow you to have plus 20% fire rate, and honestly, your auto aim is going to be your best weapon throughout the course of your gameplay. Throughout like all the various runs I've had, it's generally accounted for almost all of my, well, not almost all, but a pretty significant amount of the kills that I've gotten. So don't underestimate your base weapon. It's pretty decent in this particular title. And that's basically it for Geometry Survivor. It'll continue along with the options continuing coming up, as well as just seeing a different variety of enemies for the 20 minutes. Most of them are generally easy enough to survive. There does get to be a point where you have enemies that explode, and I feel like those ones have been the enemies that have ended my runs the most. As I mentioned, we don't really see much in the way of like bosses or elites, so this is kind of what you're seeing is basically going to be what you get. As far as total number of weapons you can equip, so we start with the one. The auto aim does count as a weapon for the purpose of purchasing upgrades. We also have your magnet, the pickup range, and that one is also starts as a base equip. But you do have like 5 weapon slots that we can overall purchase. There is one ship that does allow you to have an additional weapon slot, but it has the penalty of you not being able to go and evolve those weapons. So each weapon has 4 levels, and as we completely upgrade those levels, then we have the option to, you get the ability to evolve that weapon into its final form. So basically that's like level 5, it's max. And if you're lucky, so some of the other drops that the enemies can get, we've seen a few of them where occasionally they'll drop mines. If you hit a mine, then it'll cause this explosion to blast out from that mine, dealing damage to the enemies in that radius. And you can also purchase upgrades for that radius. But there's also the ability to there's a lightning bolt which will suck in all the experience and credits that are on the map to your ship. There's a heart which will give you an additional hit and additional HP basically. Then towards the end of the run, there's also something that looks like a twirl of DNA. Oh yay, heart. That's actually very rare, so it's great to see. That twirl, here's let's see a lightning bolt that will suck in all the experience and credits. That twirl allows you to further upgrade one weapon randomly through what's called a mutation. So we're going to keep it, let's go ahead and power up the orbiters a little bit here. So now when next time the orbiters come out from the ship, we should have 6 rather than just the 4. And there you have it. Geometry Survivors served up for your enjoyment. As far as the minus flavors are concerned, so there are a few. One of the things that I find is a little bit disappointing about the title is there's just the overall lack of differences in game mode. So we only have this one main map, and the whole order that the enemies are going to appear are going to be the same every time you have a run. So your weapon selection and potentially which ship you take will change things up. However, the enemies that we encounter are always going to be the same at this roughly the same time. So I would have liked a lot more variety that way. Some different enemies, let's see, potentially would have been great as well to have like elites that could be randomized, that sort of thing. And there's also no way to check your inventory to see what you have equipped if you're not in the upgrade screen itself. And although that's not necessary, it would have been something that would have been nice to have. On the plus flavors though, I do really love the visuals of the game. They went and captured that whole look of Geometry Wars like really well. In addition to that, the enemies themselves have unique behaviors that feel like it would be right out of Geometry Wars, so you can kind of appreciate that particular look, that particular aesthetic. And then the game itself, it's largely just going to be a title where you're just grinding through like the runs, earning credits to purchase unlocks and the additional ships. So it just has kind of this like chill vibe. The soundtrack itself is serviceable for the gameplay itself, but after a few runs you might be interested in listening to something else, so you could go and turn off the music, throw on your own soundtrack, or even maybe throw on like a podcast or some sort of YouTube video in the background just to enjoy something different while you just kind of like zone out and survive in this game. On that note, one thing I do appreciate, the overall sound design of the game is relatively light and muted, and I appreciate that. The sound effects aren't too loud and constantly droning on in the background, so I definitely kudos on at least getting that part of the sound design spot on. So overall, while I've enjoyed my time with Geometry Survivor, I do feel there are better examples of this particular gameplay out there. And so if you're looking to go and pick up something like this, then maybe go and check out some of the other suggestions I threw out at the beginning of the video. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'Em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.